Hello, and welcome to Workshop Wednesdays. So every Wednesday we are launching a live workshop, and that's really because things have changed around the world. It's harder for us now to connect. So what we're trying to do is try and bring some of what we do to your front room, as it were. So hopefully you can watch this at home and learn a little bit about what we do. And as you know, what's really important to us is to try and promote people being self-sustainable, learning new things, and creating their own bicycles ultimately. So that's what's really important. So hopefully this live workshop gives a really kind of broad appeal to what we do. We're trying to focus a little bit on bicycles, a little bit on bamboo, a little bit on making, so that you can kind of get to grips with what we're doing and learn different skills. You might not necessarily be completely interested in bicycles, but you might want to make stuff in bamboo and so on. So hopefully this workshop that I'm going to launch now is going to cover some of that and bring some of that to you. And if you're really interested in what we're doing, you can obviously get in touch or ask questions as I go. So rather than me just talking at you, feel free to talk at me, and I will try my best to answer questions. So, just to tell you guys what this workshop's about. So we're going to look at bamboo as a material. We're going to look at how you build a bicycle frame with bamboo, and more importantly, how to pick the right bamboo for the type of bicycle you're going to build, and how to make it structurally strong, how to make the frame stiff, and everything else around a bicycle. So we're going to discuss that as well. We're going to look a little bit at the history of bamboo and just give you a bit of explanation around that. And then I'm just going to talk you through how you can make other stuff out of bamboo. So if you're at home and you want to experiment with a new material or build new things and have a go at being creative, bamboo's a really accessible material. So we're going to try and just show you some of the things you can make as well at home. So stay tuned and I'll run through all of those. So I'm going to start a bit just with a little bit of background for everyone. So obviously, most people are familiar with bamboo. We know that it's really, it's grown a lot in China and India and so on. So it's not necessarily a European material. And it's got huge historical importance in those cultures in terms of as a building material, as a food and all other kinds of things. So it's really an important material. And a lot of you will have seen it in Hong Kong as scaffolding, so you know it's really strong, so that's really useful for us as frame builders. And you know, for example, that you can eat it and so on, so it's got loads and loads of different uses. And bamboo bicycles, for what we really focus on, have been around for around 120 years. So we know that there's bicycles that were built 120 years ago that are still in existence and still riding today, which is really great to see. And the modern bamboo bikes have really started to take off in a bigger way. I think that's my drill battery. I'm going to grab that. It's got a musical twine. Well, I'll carry on. Okay, so yeah, so modern bamboo bicycles have become more and more popular as a kind of a hobby craft and so on. So what's really, really good about bamboo is that you can build at home, you can build in workshops like our own, and it's one of the most accessible materials for frame building. You don't need a welder, you don't need other materials that are quite complex to learn. You can come in and you can chop bamboo and you can shape it and you can create a bicycle frame really quickly. And hopefully you can create something that's really, really useful, that is suited to you, that you can ride. And that's really the advantage of bamboo, is how versatile it is and how useful it can be. So it's obviously, as I said, it's mainly grown in China, Indonesia, a place like that. And it's native to North America, South America. And it's not a European native plant, but it is grown extensively across Europe. And I personally think that it's a really interesting material. It's got, and here's a few stats for you. It's got, a 30% higher intake of CO2 as it grows. So it's great in regards, instead of wood. So wood, it consumes a lot more CO2, so that's great. It's also, you can harvest it within 5 to 8 years, and it's considered a hardwood, so it's a lot quicker than an oak tree and so on. So I hope, similar to kind of the tomato, which isn't native to Europe, or the potato, which also isn't native, that we bring more and more bamboo into our construction, and we learn more and more how to work with it into our culture, so how it's different from wood and so on. And hopefully, as I said, this is an introduction to bamboo, and that's what I'll try and cover, okay? So what makes it really, really unique to other materials is that it is not a wood, it's a grass. So it's got a really, really unique structure. So I'll hold a piece up here for you guys so you can just see. So we've got long nodes here, and it runs in a long fibre, okay? And that's really interesting because what we can do with bamboo that you wouldn't be able to do with wood, I've got a piece here just to show you guys. What you can do is you can pop this on the bench here, and if I take a simple chisel, because it's got these long fibres running down it, I can easily just split that off. And what I'm going to do, I'll just push that into the camera so you can see. I can just pull that off, and that's a perfect split down, and that allows you to create things really easily. If you imagine trying to do that with wood, it'd be really difficult, and that's one of the big differences with bamboo. It has fibres that run all the way in this direction, so all the way along here. So that makes it really unique, and that gives it its really, really high tensile strength. So theoretically, and there's a lot of different studies around this, so people can debate and comment, bamboo has a higher tensile strength than steel, which is really, really interesting if you're building or doing anything with bamboo. So, and that's what makes it so strong. The only problem with bamboo is obviously when you're trying to work with it, it's hard to join. You can crack it easily, and it's, yeah, more importantly, it's really, really hard to join. So that becomes really, really difficult. The other thing that's interesting about bamboo is it has these nodes here, okay? And they're known as the internodes here, and they tend to be sealed, okay? And that's part of the growing process. And these are sealed, and they're actually waterproof. So if you wanted to, I can take this, and as it's a Wednesday afternoon or evening, I can pop a beer in this, and you can very easily create a cup or a mug out of the bamboo, and that will be non-permeable. So I'm going to pour a beer in, and if you're at home, feel free to join me having a beer. It's the end of the day almost, so I think it's acceptable. And you'll see that's holding in the bamboo, so it's completely waterproof. So if you're ever bored at home and you want to create your own beer mug, this is a good way to do it. Tastes a bit bamboo-y, but it's all right. But obviously clean it, wash it out, so on before you do that. I'm just saying it's an idea, all at your own risk, okay? So, as I said, the other differences between bamboo, I'm going to show you quite closely, is you've got all different cellular structure, okay? So you've got the outer surface is really, really dense, okay? And the inner surface is less dense. So if you think about wood, the inner is dense and the outer is less dense. So bamboo has the opposite cell structure to wood. So the outside surface is really strong and the inner is weaker. So that's really interesting if you're trying to join or work with it. You want to try and join it on the outside, okay? The way bamboo grows, okay, very briefly, is you get loads of different sizes, and I'll demonstrate some extremes here, okay? And if you're just joining this live broadcast from Bamboo Bicycle Club, I'm just doing a very, very brief introduction to bamboo. So I'm telling people a little bit how bamboo grows, how it works, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about frame building and how to select bamboo. So I'm just running through the different sizes of bamboo and how it grows. Okay, so we've got really, really large bamboo, little bamboo, and even smaller bamboo. So the way it grows, believe it or not, is we imagine that something comes out as a small piece and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Bamboo actually grows at the size it comes out of the ground. So it will come out this size, straight up, and as it grows, it will mature and become more dense. And it will actually grow in all these different sizes. So I've got lots of different sizes here to show you guys. What you'll find, and I'm going to slowly move over to the frame building element. So I know a lot of you are interested in bicycles and building and so on. So I'm going to introduce you a little bit to bamboo, what to look for when you're building with it, what to look for when you're working with it. So I'm going to run through some of those details next. Okay, thanks for everyone joining. I'm going to run through some frame building stuff. So as I said, this is an introduction to bamboo. So you can learn a bit more about how you work with bamboo and how you build a bicycle frame. Okay, I'm going to run through how to select and what to look out for if you're building at home or if you want to build a bicycle. Okay, so firstly, the big differences just to notice straight away between bamboo is where it falls on the plant. So if it's at the top of the plant, or culm as it's known, or if it's at the bottom, the wall thickness and the node structure will vary, okay? And what we want to try and do is we want to try and pick our bamboo from where it is in the plant. If it's higher up in the plant, we want to try and pick that for tensile strength and for movement, so it's going to make a great down tube. And if we're going to pick a seat tube, for example, we want to pick something lower down in the plant as it's a lot denser. And I'm just going to visually give you some examples. So I've got two pieces of bamboo. Ignore the sizes. What we're really interested in here is how the node structures are made up. So if you look at these two, for those of you that are sharp-eyed, you'll notice that this one has got a lot more nodes and this one has got a lot less. So these are these pieces here. See with my hands here, okay? And what we can see the difference between these two is this will be from further up in the plant, this one here, and this will be for lower down. And if we can utilize what nature's given us, so that thick walled node structure, this is supporting all of the culm, that's going to be really good in our frame where we've got a compressive, where we're sitting on the bicycle, and this is going to be really good because it's from higher up the plant, as a tensile movement piece, so as a down tube. I'm just going to show you a side profile of these. So what you'll be able to see, hopefully, is you'll see the wall thickness is very variable between these. So you'll get a much thicker wall thickness here, and this will be thinner. And it's really about a balancing act. We don't want to just go really thick, really heavy, because we're going to end up with a really heavy bicycle. It's about selecting the right tube size. So that's one thing to look out for when you're selecting your tubes. You don't want too heavy and thick for things like the down tube and the top tube, and you want a denser piece for the seat tube where you've got your compression. So that's generally what you start to think about when you select your tubes. The other big consideration when you're selecting your tubes is, for those of you that are familiar with bicycle construction and how a bicycle is put together, and you might look at carbon bikes, you might look at aluminium bikes, what we need to do is take some of that science that are in those bicycles and use it with bamboo building. And what that's going to do is it's going to get us a better performing frame. And that's really where tubing selection, it gets really, really important, okay? So, if you are picking your tubes, and I'll just run through. So if you've just joined, guys, I'm doing an introduction to bamboo, and I'm running through tubing selection, how you pick bamboo for your bicycle frame. So if you're new to building, or if you're building a kit, or whatever you are, here's a bit of a background. With our kits, we'll hand pick and label each piece, so it's a bit easier for you, but it's good to know some more background if you're interested in bamboo bike building or anything else. Okay, so what I would do is look at existing bike frames. Learn. Go and look what's going on. Don't be naive, because there's so much information out there, and we can take some of that and we can bring it into bicycle building with bamboo. So I've got a diagram here for those of you who can see it, and we've got a down tube, top tube, seat tube. So they're known as our front triangle, okay? So they're the first things I'm going to run through. So we've got some pieces here that are going to fit in the frame. So we've got a bottom bracket here that's going to go here. And that's obviously where you're going to pedal and you're going to get all that twisting motion. Okay, so you're going to get a lot of movement coming from the bottom bracket. So to reduce that movement, the best thing to do is to pick a large diameter tubing, like I've got in my hands here. So I'll give you two examples. So we've got a smaller diameter and a larger diameter. So if I'm going to reduce that movement in the bottom bracket and I want to create a really stiff frame, I'm going to pick this one. And again, going back on what I've said, we don't want this really heavy one with loads and loads of nodes, because we want this thinner, long node structures, so we get that long tensile strength, so we get all that movement that the bamboo's been naturally doing out in the wild. I'm going to take that, we're going to put it into our bicycle frame. So we aim to put that as the down tube, okay? And that's going to keep our frame nice and stiff so that when you're pedaling, you get the best power transfer, okay? And that's really important. You don't want to waste energy. And if you've got a too flexible frame, it will fail, okay? So that's why it's really important just to take your time selecting. I think the beer's staying in here. As I showed everyone earlier, you've got a node within the bamboo here that seals it off. And what I've done with this piece, I've just poured some beer in and I'll give it a top up. So if you want to at home, you can make your own beer cup rather, out of bamboo. Very cheap, very simple. And if you're really cool and trendy and doing a pop-up somewhere, I think these would be a great addition. Obviously all at your own risk. So if you've got questions, I'm going to run through the class and then I'll answer loads of questions towards the end. So please keep throwing your questions in, and then I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't really see what's going on, and I'm going to answer all your questions, okay? So I'm going to go back to picking bamboo for the frame, just so we keep momentum on this, and the guys at home who are very thankfully watching me and taking time out of their day to listen to this. I'm going to carry on with the class and try and keep teaching you guys a bit more about bamboo for frame building. So we're going to go large on the down tube. We're going to go thinner on the top tube. And we're looking for similar long node structures, so we get the tensile strength in the top tube. And we're looking, the reason why we're going for a smaller tube is because we don't want this area around the seat to be as stiff. If it's super, super stiff and we've got a really large tube there, it's going to end up being uncomfortable. Because if you imagine you're sitting here, you want some movement in the frame for steering and for your own comfort. So everyone goes on, oh, we need a really, really stiff frame. We want it super, super stiff. It's about being stiff in the right places. So you want the frame to respond really well here around the crank, and you want a bit of movement around the seat so that you've got comfort and you can steer around corners and so on. So we'll go smaller on the top tube. And the other thing to really consider is that when you've got your fork here, and we've got our big down tube, the fork is going to act as a really big cantilever. Okay, so there's a high stress, high force around there. And that's again why we want a big tube around here. For the seat tube, as I mentioned, we're going to pick something that's going to go here. And I'm looking for a denser piece. And I'm just going to give you guys another example. Bamboo's a completely organic material. It's going to vary. You're going to get changes, you're going to get variations, you're going to get quirky bits, you're going to get marks. You might love them, you might hate them, but it's quirky. So here's a quirky piece for you. We've got a nice bend here, okay? And we can actually use that to our advantage. We can run the rear wheel around this, so we get a nice aero shape, and it's quirky, looks different, and you've got a really unique frame. And that's what's really cool. And what I get to do for a lot of people is pick or help them pick their tubing. And they're all different. They're all completely unique. They're all different. You never know what you'll find. And that's what's really nice to work with bamboo. But it is key to try and keep to a few set rules. And I'll just run through those rules again. And for those of you that have just joined us, we're doing front triangle, how to pick your bamboo, and then I'm going to run through some other things of how to make other stuff with bamboo. So I've already done a beer cup, so cheers. So that's something you can make at home. And any questions, I'll probably be about 10 more minutes, and then I'll probably be on to questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. But keep your questions coming, because at the moment I'm in a weird workshop in London, and I'm talking to myself at a laptop, and I feel a bit weird. So if anyone's got questions, let me know. I can't see them yet, but I'm going to put my glasses on and answer all the questions in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to very briefly talk about the rear triangle and how you pick that. So I've got a selection, just off camera there. Hi guys. Got a selection of rear triangle. So we've got thinner diameter. And the question is, why do you want thinner diameter? You obviously want thinner diameter because if you think about a rear triangle, you've got to fit a rear wheel spinning, rotating into this part of the frame. So it's really important when you build a kit to consider that you are making a bicycle. It's not just random pieces of bamboo. You've got to have a fully functioning bicycle, and that's the real trick in all this process. It's trying to think about wheels, it's trying to think about stiffness, and it's trying to think about how your bicycle's going to perform. If you just throw together a frame, okay, and you just pick any old bamboo and you throw it up and then you lash it all together and you don't check anything as you build, and this is all covered in our manual in our home build kit. So this is covered in 150 pages. So if you're building at home, have a good read of that. But this is covered in terms of how to make your bicycle work. If you, as I said, if you don't consider these things, your bike's going to be poor to ride. You're going to have poor clearances with tires and so on. And these are all mistakes that are easy to make, but they're also easy not to make if you're aware of them and if you consider them. So what I've got is I've got some different pieces of bamboo. And I'm going to show you a few examples of what I'd pick. So what I'm looking for the chainstays is, again guys, you can see there's quite a few nodes on this one and there's less nodes on this one. So I'm looking for a denser piece for the chainstays, and the chainstays, for those of you that don't know, run along here. And the reason why I want a denser piece of bamboo for the chainstays is because when you pedal here, you're going to get a lot of force coming back onto the chainstays, and the last thing we want to do is that to move. So for any of this area around here to move around, because it's going to make that power transfer around the crank bad, and it's also going to mean that you'll end up with tire touching, crank clearance issues and so on. So you want to get quite a nice stiff piece, okay? So that's going to go there. So you're looking for a denser piece for the chainstays. And when you fit them, you want to make sure that you check all the clearances. And then for the seat stays, we're going to go for a lower node structure, so lighter piece. And that's going to go in here. And that's really because we've got a lower load around the seat stays and the chain stays. So we can get away with a bit less material. So the other thing to consider, I'm going to very briefly go through this, is the types of bamboo to use. So here at the workshop we use two varieties. We use Tonkin and we use Amoso, and you'll see the colour differences. There are 1,500 species. So there's hundreds, there's so many different types of bamboo. And what you're looking for is something that is going to give you the right strength and weight. And this is, we've done a lot of tests on these two species with UCL, so a university in London. And we found that strength to weight for bicycle building is perfect. If you're doing buildings and structures, you might want to look at like guava bamboo or other varieties, okay? So this is what we use, and this is what we supply with all our kits, and what we've got the most experience with, okay? As I said, 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to do questions. So if you've just joined, it's an introduction to bamboo. I've run through frame building. I've talked a little bit about the history of bamboo and what a great material it is and what you can use. I'm going to very briefly show you some other joining techniques and what you can make and how you can work with bamboo. So I very briefly talked about how we can split bamboo, so I'll do that very briefly again. So you can take a chisel and very simply with a quick bang, like so, you can then pull off a piece and chip it very easily. So what I'm going to show you, if I wanted to make something a bit more sophisticated, okay, I'm going to break off a piece and I can then, here's an example, put it in the vise. It's lovely and noisy if you're all at home. I am in a real workshop. It's not a fake studio. It's and what I can do is I can saw through. I'm going to show you how you can very quickly craft things in. It's very rough, and if you guys want to do this at home, and if anyone wants some bamboo to mess around with at home, if you send us a direct message with your postal address, we might post you some bamboo, because we've got loads of offcuts. If you're a school or if you're a craft workshop, we've got bags and bags of it that we have going spare. So if you want some bamboo, and it might be free, we might just charge for shipping, drop us a message and we will send you some bamboo. So if you want to experiment and make stuff. So I've cut down into this, and I'm going to very quickly just then, because I've created a little line, I can then very quickly split off the bamboo. Okay, like so. You can see how quickly I can start to create a shape. I'll do the other side, and what I'm creating is a bit of a handle, okay? So I'll break that off. So that's working with the fibres, and that's that long natural fibre. So I've now got a bit of a handle. And before, while I was warming up for this live workshop and just kind of messing around and trying to show you how to make things, I started with this, and I very quickly made a fork, okay? I think that took me about 5 minutes. So I just used the natural fibres of bamboo, and believe it or not, that's pretty strong. Okay, so that's me pushing it in, and that's just showing the tensile strength. So I'm pulling that. I'm not the biggest guy, but I can't break that. So if you want to have a go at making some bamboo cutlery at home, that's an example there. I'm sure everyone can do better and draw it better than me. So that's what you can do with scrap bamboo. I'm going to briefly talk about joining bamboo, because it's very, very difficult, because it's circles upon circles. And if you try and drill it or screw into it, it will very easily crack. So I've got an example here of how, if you wanted to join it, you can use a dowel here. So I put a dowel through, and I've created a really, really strong join there, okay? And so if you wanted to, you could make a chair or a table, and you can imagine the struts here and so on. You could very quickly make that. And I've done that just by drilling a hole in. So I've used 2 different drill holes through, and then you can create different structures out of bamboo. So if you wanted to create a table, outdoor furniture, here's an example of kind of joining bamboo and how you can work with it. The other thing to think about, which I didn't mention, is obviously bamboo's a natural material. Any natural material like wood, steel is not natural, but as an example, steels, anything that's outdoor and is exposed to the environment needs to be protected. That's quite logical. So it's the same with bamboo. So what you guys need to do is I'd put like a tung oil on or a lacquer, and that will protect the bamboo and keep it looking nice. It will also stop splitting, which can be caused by moisture movement. The other example I've got, we use these a lot in the workshop. So we just get a piece of bamboo, we split it down the middle, and then we drill holes in, and that's just a chisel holder, okay? And I've sanded it a bit and I painted it. I'm just saying, if you guys want to create something at home for the kitchen, you can get it quite decorative. You can get it looking really nice if you put a bit more time. You can see it's really rough here. I've sanded it a bit here so you can see the nice grain, and then I've quickly slapped some spray paint on here. And that, I think that could look really nice if you wanted it as a holder at home. We use these a lot in the workshop, so we put, you can see some bits here. So we put chisels, and that's utilising the properties of bamboo. You know, it's a natural oval, so on. The other thing it's used a lot for is guttering. So you can imagine here, you can split this off. And for those of you that are just joining, it's an introduction to bamboo. I'm talking about how you build a bicycle frame, how you build other random stuff out of bamboo, And I'm sure there's lots of guys out there that have experimented with bamboo. The other thing, if you guys want to, and I'll add a comment into the end of this thing, is that we do an acoustic speaker. So we do it a lot with schools. So it's an introduction to bamboo. And we've got a complete worksheet of how you build it, how you work on it. So I'll add a link. And if those of you want to build one at home, there'll be an acoustic speaker worksheet, and it goes through all acoustic sound, how to build it. I'll add that as a comment. So that's another thing you can make really simply. And I think it's really interesting to work with bamboo. It's a new material for a lot of us, and you can create things really simply. It's recyclable, it's organic, and more importantly, you can do it at home, and it's sustainable, and you can become more self-sufficient and learn about what you can do. I'm not necessarily the most talented person when it comes to making things, but I try and give it a go. And I think that's really important, to try and focus yourself, learn new things, and keep challenging yourself. Otherwise, things get really, really boring. As I said, I made a beer mug earlier, and I was just talking about the nodes being completely waterproof. So I'll put the rest of the beer. Okay, so on that's a very brief summary of bamboo. If you want to learn more, drop us an email and I'm happy to send you more information. Join a workshop, or if you want really, really detailed advice on how to build a frame, we've got our home build kits, and there's a very detailed manual and talks you through how you pick bamboo and everything else. So that was our live workshop. Thank you very much for joining and watching. We really appreciate everyone that supports us, keeps us going, and ultimately keeps us motivated, because it's you guys that matter, and it's your creativity and bicycles that you build that really inspire us and keep inspiring the next builders. So thank you ever so much for tuning in. I'm going to do some quick questions now. I'm going to put my specs on, come and read some questions, and I'm going to try my best to answer them. Okay. Let me have a look. Okay, we got cargo bikes. This is really fascinating, great. Okay, cargo bikes.
Water has a question.
What beer are you drinking? Okay, I've memorised those. I've got Instagram here. I'm going to have a look at that. Okay, right, so, few questions, which is really appreciated. It's good not to just talk at you and talk with you.
I have a question on saws as well and some tools.
Okay, I'm going to talk about tools. Right, cargo bikes. So we've built quite a lot of cargo bikes, and if you follow our YouTube channel, so you can tune into our YouTube channel, you can see a couple of builds we've done with UCL as a master's student project. So cargo bikes, I think, are going to come big this year, especially with what we're all experiencing with public transport and so on at the moment. So if you're building cargo bikes, you really want to go quite big on diameters so that you can maintain the stiffness of the frame. So if you're loading up and you're putting weight on the frame, so we've got loads of papers and development around cargo bikes. And if you, again, message us, I will send you all those reports that we've written and testing that we've done around cargo bikes. But you want larger diameter, and the real key is to work out how you're going to design it up, and the hardest part is going to be the steering. So if you want to do a cargo bike, we do a custom workshop, we do a custom home build kit, and we can design up. I've just finished designing a big dummy, which is a really long extended bicycle with a big rack on for someone that's building at home. So we can advise on that, and obviously we'd supply the bamboo around that. The other question was really around what's the strongest bamboo and how do you test bamboo? Okay, so bamboo is one of those materials that doesn't have huge amounts of test resourcing behind it. It's not like timber where you've got all the kite marking and all the research behind it. There's a lot of variation, and that's why it's quite difficult to select bamboo. The key when you're looking at bamboo is you're looking at wall thickness, you're looking at density, you're looking at the condition of the bamboo, and you're trying to understand if it was harvested correctly. And then most importantly, you want to stabilize the bamboo in an environment so the moisture levels are even. And then you're going to get basically the best performance. It's a very, very quick summary of what's quite a complex subject. There are loads and loads of data on Young's modulus of all the different types of bamboo and species that people have researched, okay? We have our own data, so we did a study fairly early on with Portsmouth University that looks at our particular bamboo and the strength behind it. With what we're doing, the strength of what we're doing is we're looking for the bamboo to obviously give our strength and rigidity within the frame, but we're also using a biocomposite. So we're going to use a flax fibre on our frames, for those of you that are familiar with bamboo building. And that's also key in bringing the strength into the frame. The key with bamboo over time, if you want to get the most strength out of it, is protecting it in the environment and making sure that you join it correctly. So those are the things that I'd really look to research if I were you. And there's a lot of architecture research. There's a chap in Coventry University that's got a lot of information. I've completely forgotten his name, David something. If you email us, I can give you as much research as we've got. We've got a database of reports and carbon cycles and so on that I'm happy to share with anyone that wants more information on that.
What had a question about a complete build in the same room or table? Can she do that?
So if you're building at home, we design our kits that you can build at home almost anywhere. We advise that you need a table, a flat table to build on, and yeah, you should be able to do it at home. We've introduced a brand new tool pack. So if you're on our website every day, like hopefully most of you are, you'll see that we've just released a new product, and that is all the tools you need as well to build at home. So if you're not sure where to find them or source them, you can buy the kit and you can buy the tools. And they're all designed around things that we've perfected over 8 years of teaching people simple tools, simple to use, and all the right techniques and so on. So it's things like saws, like a tenon saw like this. I'll grab a few other items.
Also, what is the best? What type of saws are best for home builds?
Okay, so you've got this saw here. So this is the saw I've just spec'd up, okay? It's not the most expensive saw that you can buy, but you want a fine bladed saw because the fibres of the bamboo are very fine. So you can get some saws that aren't very fine bladed, they're useless, avoid them. So you can also get like Japanese saws, which are really, really good as well. And this is based around a Japanese saw, it's fine bladed. And I also quite like a tenon saw that's fine bladed as well and has a square edge, so it keeps it stiff. So if you're working with it. And then the other thing I really like is I often use a Stanley knife. So these are, you can buy them in any DIY shop, and I can just very easily peel off the bamboo and work along the fibres and shape it and so on. So that all comes in the tool pack. And then you've got different tapes, and if you're working with bamboo, you want to use some tape and so on. So it's all in the tool pack that's on our website. And equally, just go and have a look. And if you can find it locally, get them locally. But at least you've got a guide to try and advise you what to use and what's going to be useful.
I've got a question. Have you ever tried internally laminating the tubes with flat?
Oh, right. Yeah. So I was going to talk about that, but I got carried away talking about other rubbish. So let me go back to that. So we've done a lot of lamination work on bamboo, and that's really where the technology for bamboo is going. Some of you might have lovely IKEA dining room tables with bamboo. That's all laminated. So what it is you break the bamboo down, you lay it all up, glue it together, the same as plywood, and then you cut it and slice it into layers, and then you can create perfectly flat surfaces. Obviously, we're not interested in flat layers for bicycles. We're interested in different shapes and different tubing. So I've got an example. We just finished a build with Cyclist magazine. You can see it on our website and on our Instagram if you follow our Instagram. There's a really interesting build where we've used some laminate. And here's an example of a tube here that's laminated. Okay. And what we've done there is we've changed the shape. And what it will do is we've got a wider shape at the bottom now, and we've got a taller shape at the front, so it gives us a different ride. And ultimately, it means we can manipulate the shape of the bamboo and create some cooler profiles, and we can change the ride performance. So you can do laminate tubing. Does it take a lot of work? Yes, it does. Do you need to mold it up really carefully and make sure that it doesn't delaminate? Yes, you do. If you're interested in doing some laminate tubing and you want some advice, get in touch. It's something we've done a build with the design museum that was all laminate tubing, and it was a really interesting build. So over about 5-6 years, I've been working on different laminate tubing. I find it quite interesting to push the boundaries. So we've done quite a lot of work on it, and I know there's other builders doing it. I'd like to say thank you ever so much for tuning in. I hope everyone is safe and well and enjoying themselves and enjoying the summer and getting out cycling. Thanks to everyone for all their support. It's been a really interesting time over the last few months for everyone. So thanks for everyone that's kept supporting us. I'm going to introduce to you guys what our next live workshops are. I'm going to try and keep these live workshops going. I know I started them, but I've got a whole 20 series of workshops all booked up and planned out. So these are going to be regular. So hopefully they're going to help you if you're building at home or how to work with bamboo and so on. Just going to reach down and introduce the next workshop. So what I'm going to talk about is we're going to move completely away from bamboo and we're going to look at bicycles. So we're going to go a bit technical, a bit detailed, and try and get you guys to create your perfect bicycles. And we're going to talk about the fork, how you choose the correct fork for your bicycle. And I would personally say there's about 30 different options of forks. There's different headset sizes, there's different braking sizes, different wheel sizes. All these things make it really, really confusing for you at home if you're trying to pick a fork for your bamboo frame or if you're trying to build any kind of frame. So I'm just going to run through all the different types of forks and how you pick the right one for your bike. And that's what I'm going to focus on next workshop. So thank you ever so much. Please get in touch if you've got any questions. We'd love to hear from you. And if you need access to some of our research or you want to build an acoustic speaker or anything else, do get in touch. But we'll put some notes up after this. So keep an eye on our social media and we'll promote that. Thank you ever so much. I'm James and I'm going to leave you to enjoy your evening. Bye for now.